What's going on YouTube? Dots Gaming here, and today I'm going to be talking about if ESO is worth getting into in 2019. A question that a lot of people are probably wondering about, being that ESO has made a lot of announcements recently on their plans for the upcoming year and things that they would like to do. And plus with the current state of the MMORPG genre, people are looking for, MMOs that they can sink their teeth into and spend some time playing. Maybe their current MMO isn't doing it for them, or maybe they've been out of the genre for a while and are looking to get back into it, and they want to know if ESO is a game that is worth them investing their time into. I myself am primarily an ESO content creator, streamer, YouTuber, etc. So I have a ton of endgame experience with this, and a lot of my guides on my channel focus on beginner aspects as well. So I've see the game from all different sides. So if you do decide at the end of this video that ESO is worth it, feel free to explore the rest of my channel as well as my website dotsgaming.com to see those beginner guides and builds to help you get started. But first, we need to even answer the question, is the game worth playing in 2019? Now, I'm going to assume that you guys, at the very least, know what ESO is. You know that it's set in Tamriel. You know that it has action combat. You know that it's an MMORPG. But you just want to know, is it even worth playing and getting, spending time investing in playing the game? And in my opinion, as of right now, it is. The game has undergone a ton of quality of life changes and has gotten a ton of updates since its inception. You wouldn't even recognize the game now versus how it was when it first came out. The game had an extremely rough launch and was really, really rocky in the beginning, but over time and with plenty of updates, ZeniMax has dramatically improved the state of the game, and ESO is in a much, much healthier state now than it ever has been previously, and is looking to get even better moving forward. We saw a lot of quality of life updates in 2018, and like I said, we're even seeing more coming in 2019 already, and it's only Q1 of the year. The gameplay has improved dramatically. A lot of bugs have been fixed, albeit it may have taken a while and some are still present, but overall, ZOS has been putting forward the effort to try to get a lot of those fixed. There have been a ton of content updates, DLCs, and chapters. The two most notable content updates was that there was the one Tamriel update, which basically tore down the level barriers as well as the faction barriers. So there's scaling technology in the world, which gives the leveling process a much more sandbox feel as opposed to a theme park feel, as well as the fact that faction does not matter outside of the open world PvP zone. You're basically able to play with whoever in whatever, as long as we're not talking Cyrodiil PvP, that is faction specific. And like I said, the level scaling allow people of different levels, higher or lower, to be able to play together. We also have the Homestead patch, which put player housing into the game, which is a pretty robust system. So if you like player housing, ESO is going to be a great MMO for you. And there have been a ton of DLCs and chapters that have been added to the game. If you do not know, a DLC is just like a small update, whether or not it be a couple new dungeons or maybe like a new area with a story, a centered story through it, or a chapter, which is ESO's version of an expansion. And there have been a ton since the game's release. Imperial City, Orsinium, Thieves Guild, Dark Brotherhood, Shadow of the Hist, Morrowind, Horns of the Reach, Clockwork City, Dragon Bones, Somerset, Wolf Hunter, Murkmire, and coming out in the Q1 of 2019, we have Wrathstone. And in Q2, we have our next chapter, the third chapter, which will be Elsweyr. Morrowind and Somerset were chapters, but Morrowind is included in ESO Plus, which is ESO's subscription model. If you choose to subscribe, the game is buy to play, and a subscription does give you some extra perks. Nothing pay to win, but it does give you some extra perks, and such as getting DLC for free and not having to purchase the DLC. And as chapters are basically kind of rotated out, so as a new chapter is released, the old chapters, I believe, will be getting added to ESO Plus. At least that was the strategy they took with Morrowind and Somerset when Somerset was released. So I have to assume that they're going to follow the same train of thought with Elsweyr. Once it's released, Somerset will either become part of ESO Plus or they'll just bundle it in with the Elsweyr purchase. But the cool thing in 2019 is that all of the DLCs in the chapter that are coming out are part of a year-long story. The way that ESO normally does it is that they have, like I said, 3 DLCs and a chapter that come out per year, and they all kind of are a little bit disjointed. They don't really connect in any way. They're all pretty separate, but for 2019, they're all going to be connected through one overarching story that ZOS is coining as the Year of the Dragon. So a lot of people are extremely excited for that, myself included. In addition, in the beginning of this year, ZeniMax Online Studios, the creators of ESO, have been doing a lot of internal shuffling with their developer team. Some people have been leaving the team, new people are being hired, and devs are being moved into other positions. So things are being shuffled around a whole lot inside at ZOS. Also, they have a class rep program that they started at the middle to end of 2018. So certain players act as representatives of the player base to voice overarching concerns and issues to the developers. And overall, their internal changes in 2019, as well as the class rep program, have left myself and a ton of other ESO veteran players extremely confident about the future of the game. Also, the Wrathstone patch is the Q1 patch for the game, and the upcoming racial passive changes have increased player confidence overall about the future of the game even more, with a lot of great balance changes being made and an overall great vision being carved out for the game. And in my opinion, this is truly one of the best times to start getting into ESO. And I know one question people always have is it too late? That sounds like a lot of content, Dots. That sounds like there's a lot that's been added. Is it too late to start? Am I ever going to be able to catch up, or will I always just be behind? And no, it is not too late to start. Like I said, ESO is extremely sandbox in nature. You do not have to tackle all of the quests or do all of the zones if you don't want to. You can completely go about the game and the leveling process in whichever way you want. Maybe you choose to quest in your alliance zones, or maybe you choose to just grind out mobs and just get experience that way, or maybe you choose to do the DLC, the content DLCs only, and just do those quest lines. But no matter how you decide to do it, you can very easily get to level 50, which is the max level, and get into the end game leveling progression system, which is champion points. And previously, ZOS had been increasing the champion point level every single patch by 30, which was beginning to make the game a bit grindy, and power creep was becoming a bit of a problem. But they have stopped increasing the CP while they currently examine the system and decide what they want to do, but we're probably not going to hear about that from quite some time. But at the moment, they have stopped increasing the CP cap at the end of the game. So the usable amount of the end game points that you get, they've stopped increasing those. So you will be able to very easily catch up with other players. It also helps that at champion point level 160, that is where gear stops getting better. So the second you hit that level, you are using max level gear. When you hit CP 300, which is another important benchmark, you have all of your stats that your character has, so you can hit these benchmarks even early on while you're gaining champion points that really help you augment your character's power, so you will not feel super far behind people who have been playing for a while. So you can very easily catch up. It will take some time, obviously, but you can catch up. It's not like other games where it's going to be basically nearly impossible. And there's a ton of content to do in the game besides the leveling process, which you could, like I said, either choose to grind or you could just do quests. You could also run dungeons. There's a ton of other stuff to do. In terms of PvE, player versus environment, we have dungeons. We also have dungeons are 4-player dungeons, which is typically a tank, a healer, and 2 DPS. We also have trials, which is the Elder Scrolls Online's version of the raid, which are 12-person raids that typically feature 8 DPS, 2 healers, and 2 tanks. Obviously, there are exceptions to that, but that's the general format. There's also the Veteran Maelstrom Arena, which is like a solo raid. And then there's also Veteran Dragonstar Arena, which is a 4-player raid. And we also have Black Rose Prison, which is very similar to Dragonstar Arena, in which it is like a 4-person raid. We also have player versus player, where we have the open world zone that I mentioned earlier of Cyrodiil. In this time in the Elder Scrolls universe, the Imperial's homeland is currently basically being fought over in the 3 Banners War. There are 3 factions in the game, and so Cyrodiil is our open world PvP zone, and at the center of that is the Imperial City, which was a DLC that was added to the game, which is another type of PvP zone. There are also instance battlegrounds, which is 4v4v4, and we also have dueling. In addition, there's also housing in the game. You can spend a lot of time making gold, world, role-playing. There's a ton of in-game events, exploration, questing, and a lot more. And the good thing about ESO is that you can really play solo or you can play with a group. Don't get me wrong, some content will obviously require a group. It is an MMORPG after all, so group dungeons are going to require a group, but there is a ton to do if you're a solo player, and you can have a very full experience if you choose to play by yourself. And the ESO community has also changed a lot over the game's life. The toxicity in the game has become less the meta, as people like to say, and the hashtag ESO fam has risen recently. And I do have to say, as being a part of multiple other MMORPG communities before, the ESO community really is something special. And while of course it does have its less than optimal people in the community, the majority of people you will meet are all very, very nice, and you will have a good experience overall as long as you get in with the right group of people. Now, while of course it's always fun to talk about all of the positive aspects of the game, I do want to touch on a lot of the negatives that you will see if you do choose to get back into ESO. PvP is still a pretty lag-filled mess, especially in Cyrodiil. During prime time, especially if you play in the more populated campaign of Cyrodiil, you will find that there is a fair bit of lag, especially if you play and are fighting near a large group. You can have massive FPS drops. You'll have a lot of desync between trying to click your skills and when they actually go off, and it can be extremely frustrating. And don't get me wrong, you could try to play one of the less populated campaigns, but sometimes the only instance of Cyrodiil that you can play in is the full populated one, and for that night, let's just be honest, PvP really won't be that fun of an experience. At the end of 2018, we saw a lot of very questionable balance changes to the game. I won't go into the specifics here, but there was a lot of questionable balance changes, kind of leaving the state of PvP at the end of 2018 a bit rough. But again, like I said earlier in the video, the beginning of 2019 is beginning to look positive. We're beginning to see a lot of positive changes and a lot of positive movements, especially with the class rep program and the internal changes at ZOS. A lot of the people driving some of the decisions that were not favored upon, especially by the PvP community, are beginning to kind of be changed and be moved in a more positive direction. But of course, like I said, PvP does have its fair share of issues, especially in the open world Cyrodiil area. PvE also is not all sunshine and rainbows. There are currently some bugs that have been plaguing the end game raiding scene and have been driving people up a wall. I've seen some of the most dedicated raiders in the game be just frustrated to no end due to the bugs and how long it's been taking to get them fixed. And similarly, though, to PvP, balance is being heavily improved with the upcoming racial passive changes for 2019 Wrathstone patch. Right now, in the current state of the game, race plays a large part of your DPS and which race you choose to play. But with the upcoming changes, it's going to open up a lot of racial diversity for the end game raiding scene. But the overarching theme for the end game content, PvP and PvE, for me is that the end of 2018 was incredibly rough in terms of the number of bugs, lag, and balance. But my honest guess is that ZOS noticed this, and I can say that based on the sheer number of dev changes that I mentioned earlier. Obviously, I can't say that for a fact, but that is my educated guess. And in my opinion, those changes have worked wonders, as most players seem very happy with the first round of patch notes that have come in 2019, regardless of what you read on the forums. Now, in short, ESO has had its ups and downs, but the game is continually trended upward ever since its rough release. And in this YouTuber's opinion, 2019 is looking to be one of the best years of ESO. Like I said, I'm personally extremely confident and happy with the moves that ESO has not only been making with their developer team, but with the class rep program, with its current round of patch notes that are out for the Wrathstone patch, the first DLC of the year, and just all of their plans for the year leave me extremely confident and, most importantly, extremely excited for 2019. So I definitely recommend grabbing yourself a copy of The Elder Scrolls Online today. You can check out a link from Green Man Gaming in the description below to get yourself a copy of ESO for a little bit cheaper, or if you want to buy the game from ESO directly, you can do that as well. But I definitely recommend getting into it. It's a great time. It's my favorite MMORPG at the moment, and if you do decide to get into it, you can check out the rest of the guides and videos on my channel, as well as my website, dotsgaming.com. But I want to thank you all so much for listening to my video today and listening to me talk about ESO. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and got something out of it, and if you did, I'd appreciate if you left a like on the video. If you have any questions about ESO and the Elder Scrolls Online, feel free to ask in the comment section below, and I will get to your comment as soon as I can. And for some more great Elder Scrolls Online content, as well as continued updates on the patches for this year and all of the new content coming up, please hit that sub button as well as hit the bell to keep notifications on. I also stream live on Twitch every week, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 10:30 Eastern Time. So be sure to drop by, give a follow, and watch live. So thank you all so much for stopping by today. I really appreciate it. As always, I'm Dots Gaming, and I'll see you in the next one.